Now we move on to the validate scope process. This is when you get the client sign-off. This is often the task that gives your clients the most worry. Some of them think they are signing their lives away when they approve a document or a deliverable. This is a challenge for us. We have to reassure them. So, now we are in the monitoring and controlling process group, where we have two processes in the scope management knowledge area. They are validate scope and control scope. By the way, there is no right order for these two processes. Once the work is complete, you need to make sure that what you are delivering matches what you wrote down in the project scope statement. That way, we will never deliver the wrong product to the client. You will want to remember this for the PMP exam. When you read any question about customer, client, sponsor, or authorized stakeholder acceptance and getting anything signed off for the deliverables, immediately pick the answer which contains validate scope. The main concept of this process is to get a formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables systematically throughout the project as needed. Wait a moment. Remember that the closed project or phase process involves getting the final formal acceptance of the project or phase as a whole from the customer, while the validate scope process involves getting formal acceptance from the customer for the deliverables. If you understand this process, you will be able to get 3 to 5 questions right in the real exam. So we have two similar processes, validate scope and close project or phase. With validate scope, we are getting acceptance for the completed deliverables, while with close project or phase, we are reviewing and confirming acceptance, then closing. So don't be confused about the difference between these two processes. Remember that you can't close the project or the phase and get the final sign-off without getting approval for the deliverables first. Let's start with the inputs to validate scope. As always, you need the project management plan in all of the processes, and from it, you will need the scope management plan. That will help you to know how formal acceptance of the completed project deliverables will be obtained. You want the requirements management plan because it helps you to know how the project requirements are validated. It's helpful to have the approved scope when you meet with the customer, so you need the scope baseline. We can compare this to the actual results to determine if a change, corrective action, or preventive action is necessary. Regarding these terms, you will hear them all the time in most of the processes. I will explain them in detail in the Perform Integrated Change Control process. However, to help you understand quickly, a change is a modification to any formally controlled deliverable, project management plan component, or project document. Corrective actions means actions taken to bring the project back on track, so it realigns the performance of the project work with the project management plan. And the preventive action makes sure that we stop any problems happening before they occur, so that the project stays on track in the future according to the project management plan. We also want the project documents as an input. From these, we need the lessons learned register. We can use lessons learned earlier in the project and apply them to later phases, which helps us improve the efficiency and effectiveness of validating deliverables. Remember this for the PMP exam. We need the quality reports. These reports are outputs from the managed quality process. The information presented in the quality report may include all the quality assurance actions, like any issues which are managed or escalated by the team, any recommendation for improvement, and also the summary of findings from control quality process. This information is reviewed before the product acceptance. We need the requirements documentation. We compare requirements to the actual results to decide if a change, corrective action, or preventive action is necessary. And we also want the requirements traceability matrix, which contains information about requirements, including how they will be validated. It is to track where requirements came from and prove that requirements were achieved. We want the verified deliverables, because when the work is done by the team during the executing stage, we can't go to the customer immediately. We have to complete, check, and inspect the work each time before we meet with the customer. So we need the verified deliverables, which are outputs from the control quality process. And lastly, we need the work performance data. You will need to refer to the work performance data from the direct and managed project work process to assess how well product deliverables are meeting the requirements. Work performance data can include the degree of compliance with requirements, the number of nonconformities, the severity of nonconformities, or the number of validation cycles performed in a period of time. Some students are confused about the difference between verified deliverables and validated scope and accepted deliverables, which is the output of this process. I will try to explain the whole process using an example. Imagine you are building a new house and you've assigned a contractor to supervise the work. You agreed with him to build a swimming pool in the backyard with particular specifications. He assigned workers to do the work. After a few weeks, he goes to the work location to check, verify, and inspect if the workers completed the pool based on your requirements. That means he is in the control quality process, and the output of this is verified deliverables. Afterwards, the contractor asks you to visit the backyard, and he shows you the pool. Now the contractor is in the verify scope process trying to get your acceptance. You've done the walkthrough and reviewed the pool specs, and you've inspected whether the pool meets your requirements and criteria or not. So you measured, verified, and examined the pool. So you are using the inspection technique. Remember that inspection is sometimes called reviews, peer reviews, audits, or walkthroughs. Then you called your friend to consult him, and you asked him to help you to make the decision. Here you are using decision-making technique. If you are satisfied with the work, the result will be accepted deliverables. If you are not satisfied, you will ask the contractor for corrective action to bring the project back on track. Then the contractor will repeat the same processes until he gets the deliverables accepted. What's the difference between the two terms, verification and validation? We can explain verification through asking, are you building the thing right? And validation by asking, are you building the right thing? Building the right thing refers back to the user's needs, while building it right checks that the specifications are correctly implemented. Remember that verified deliverables are project deliverables that are completed and checked for correctness through the control quality process. If we have any change request or improvements related to the deliverables, they may be changed, inspected, or re-verified during control quality. It's more important that we conduct both verification and validation activities throughout the project. You can perform inspections as deliverables are completed at phase gates or at milestones. This reduces the risk that you will get the finished product and the customer will say, "This is not what I was wanting at all." You might be thinking, how do we inspect? Here's the high-level description of the inspection procedures. We begin by gathering the product acceptance criteria, requirements documentation, statement of work, specifications, or any other standard or documentation that contains a detailed description of the deliverable or result. Then we will decide on the best way to test or prove that the deliverable meets the criteria. Some common methods we can use include testing, examining, analysis, and demonstration, depending on what the deliverable is. Then we conduct the inspection, review, or audit. And finally, we record the results. If the deliverable or result is not compliant or suitable, we might need to perform a root cause analysis, correct a defect, or submit a change request. Remember that issuing a change request is a result of all the processes in the monitoring and controlling process group, and the issued change request will be an input to the perform integrated change control process. However, we'll talk more about changes to the scope in the next process, control scope. We have three similar terms, and it's important to know the difference between each of them. They are work performance data, work performance information, and work performance reports. Remember that you need to use the work performance data as an input to all the processes in the monitoring and controlling process group. The work performance data is the result of your implementation of the work. Work performance information is a result of your measurement of the performance data. It's an output from all the processes in the monitoring and controlling process group. Let's go back to our pool example. You will document all the project progress of the work in the work performance information, such as which deliverables have been accepted and which have not been accepted, and the reasons why. Make sure that you document all the changes, whether they have been accepted or rejected. And then in monitor and control project work, the information will be output as work performance reports. The reports can be represented as dashboards, scorecards, KPIs, or normal reports. You need to update any related documents in all the processes. In the validate scope process, you will update the lessons learned register document, which is an output from the manage project knowledge process. You will also update the outputs from the collect requirements process, the requirements documentation, and the requirements traceability matrix documents.